Good. Okay. Well, welcome, everybody. This is Cecil from Take 12 Recovery Radio's show, The Great Reality. And I just wanted to say a special thank you for you joining us here because September is National Recovery Month. And we just want to tell you how much we appreciate your listenership to the world's only faith-based recovery radio show, The Great Reality, with Bruce and Marv and the Monty Man, and I'm out of breath. So without further ado, here's the gang. Take it away, guys.
The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
Well, welcome aboard. It is National Recovery Month. September is, and deemed by Capitol Hill as National Recovery Month. And I'm excited because this is the time of year when a lot of folks in the political arena, globally, or not globally, nationally, as well as locally, like on the commissioners level and state senators and so forth, get on the same page with the recovery community. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that here in just a second. But Marv is here and Bruce is here, and we are all together. Hi, guys.
Hi.
And you guys are looking chipper this morning. Marv is... he's wearing some red reading glasses that I used to have to wear before I got my...
And I look rather fetching, too.
You look fetching. Yes, you do. Yeah, I don't know if that's the right word, but anyway, so welcome aboard.
Fetching suffices.
Today's topic, this week's topic, words, specifically the power of words. Do words carry power? I don't know that they do, just sitting there, just left to our own lip service. But maybe they do. We're going to talk about that. People in recovery, we know, can be very sensitive, right, Bruce?
What do you ask me that for?
Right, Marv?
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes the words we say can build you up, or they can tear you down. They can light a fire in your heart, or they can drown it out. Sometimes the words we hear are not necessarily the words people are saying because of our perception and that kind of thing. So we're going to be talking about that. Before we go down that road, though, I just want to say thank you to Barbara Guerriere and Joey Smith and Fletcher Drew and all the folks, Chris Attaway, all the people. And I'm kind of spacey today because I'm a little worn out from the weekend. But all the people that are responsible for the Recovery Northwest Project in Vancouver, Washington, here the other day. What an amazing event. It is amazing to me how the secular recovery community and the faith-based recovery community have joined together and are on the same page up in Vancouver. It is wild. There's a church up there called Faith Center, and they have a church within a church called the Exchange Church. And they have no less than 300 people, addicts and alcoholics, coming together every Saturday night, and an average of 60 to 70 people turning their will and their life over to the care of God every Saturday. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing gathering, and it's made up of all sorts of folks in the recovery community in Vancouver.
That I'd like to see.
It is wild. It is wild, and it's been going on for some time. They have a recovery coalition up there that was formed, and where everybody's coming together, and there's they have advisory boards and so forth, and they put these things on, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm just blown away by it.
It used to be that way in Los Angeles.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember going to a meeting as a young man with somebody, and it was in the basement, and it was just wall-to-wall people.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. My newest sponsee, Tony, he was my Jimmy Olsen. He was taking pictures. He was running around with the camera taking pictures all over the place. So if you go to our website, take12radio.com, and up at the very top on the right, it says Recovery Northwest Project 2015. If you click on that, it'll take you to a dedicated page where the interviews some of the interviews we conducted are there, as well as some of the pictures. And it was just a whole heck of a lot of fun. So thank you, everybody, for that. Listen, Paul Hallway, who was on the show here a few weeks back, Paul, when he was 10 or 12 years old, shot his little sister because he was, thinking that she was getting all the attention. He was strangely insane at the time. And it's his story of redemption and recovery from drug and alcohol abuse. And really his life story. His book, Life After, is sitting in front of me right here. I encourage you to go back into the archives and listen to that show. And you can get his book on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com and type in Paul Hallway, Holway. So thank you, Paul, for that. And then this Friday, it is my absolute pleasure to have the Executive Vice President of Origins Behavioral Healthcare as my guest. Origins is probably the number one gold standard in addictive illness treatment in the country. And they're located at South Padre Island, Texas. They have some other centers that have opened up. They are amazing people. And so amazing, in fact, that they are really the mainstay for people who Dr. Phil McGraw from the Dr. Phil Show send the people he works with to. And so Rob Park will be my guest. You don't want to miss that. They are one of our sponsors here at Take 12 Radio, so it's going to be a pleasure to have them. All right, so we're going to take our first break, come back, and do a little Take 12 trivia, and then we're going to talk about the power of words. Don't go away.
Hey, what are you doing sitting on your blessed assurance? Be part of the solution. That's right. On Saturday, October 3rd, 2015, it's the 4th annual Hope Fest. Live music, local and national recording artists, guest speakers, community resource fair, food and vendor booths, and so much more. Where? Prescott, Arizona, at the beautiful Prescott Courthouse Plaza. Hey, get involved. Come join the Monty Man at the 4th annual Hope Fest as we address the immediate needs of those who are hurting and are in need of hope. Saturday, October 3rd, 2015. Don't miss out. Contact us at info@hopefestaz.com, or you can call 928-387-HOPE. That's 928-387-4673. Get involved. Visit our website, www.hopefestaz.com. Do it today. I dare you.
Choosing a facility for drug and alcohol rehabilitation treatment is an important decision. It should be a place where you will be comfortable and supported, and one that is staffed, equipped, and programmed for successful outcomes. Introducing Free by the Sea, located on 5 acres of secluded waterfront property along the southwest Washington coast, away from big city distractions. The campus is a renovated resort property, so the grounds are lush and beautiful. Above all, the reason to choose Free by the Sea is the success rate of our counselors and staff in helping clients to transition to a life free from addiction. For more information or to schedule a visit, call 800-272-9199 or visit our website at freebythesea.com.
Hey, it's Artie Kornfeld, and you're listening to Take 12 Radio, Recovery Talk, and Positive Music.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hey, Cecil.
I have a little poem that I wrote earlier today in the early morning hours that I would like to read to you. Are you ready for my little poem?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, here it goes. Hickory, dickory, dock. The mouse smoked all the pot. the Cheetos are gone, and I'm really not very happy about any of that, to tell you the truth. It's time for Take 12 Trivia.
Okay, Cecil. Go back to bed. All right, Take 12 Trivia brought to you this week by the 12-Step Gazette. Award-winning recovery magazine. Visit 12stepgazette.com. Okay, so in honor of the topic, words, trivia this week is famous quotes, famous words by famous people. And so we'll see how well you do. Okay, there's 3 in a bonus. Number 1, here is the quote. My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Was that Thomas Jefferson, John F. Kennedy, or George Bush?
John F. Kennedy.
Kennedy, you guys are right. You get a bell. Don't you just love getting a bell?
I love getting the easy ones.
You love getting the easy ones. All right, that was correct. That was John F. Kennedy. Number 2, the quote is, be the change that you want to see in the world. Was that Anwar Sadat, Mahatma Gandhi, or Jimmy Carter? Be the change that you want to see in the world.
Be the change.
Gandhi.
Gandhi? Let me say Bruce.
Gandhi.
All right, you guys get another bell. You got 2 bells. Ringy dingy. Number 3.
One ringy dingy.
2 ringy dingy.
And here's number 3 for 3 ringy dingy. The quote is, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Was it Andrew Young, Martin Luther King, or Jesse Jackson?
Martin Luther King, wasn't it?
Marv?
Yeah, I think it was.
Wow, you guys got it, man. That's great. Yes. I kind of breathed through the I have a dream thing there. I have a dream, comma. Then you would have really got it then, right? I mean, that would have been innocent. That my 4 little children will one day live in a nation that will not be judged by the color of the skin, but by the content of their character. Okay, here's your bonus. Number 4. Quote, you see things and you say why, but I dream things that never... Okay, let me say this again. This is a tongue twister. Okay, you say things and you say why, but I dream things that never were and say, why not? These are your choices. George Bernard Shaw, Robert Kennedy, or William Wordsworth?
George Bernard Shaw.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are awesome. You didn't get any of this. Oh, my goodness sakes.
Knock it off.
Yeah. Very good. Ow!
That because Cecil inspired us.
See, all right, we'll be right back right after this message.
Hey there, this is the Monty Man, and I want you to know about what I consider the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. Origins Recovery Centers. Origins treatment philosophy represents a rare fusion of contemporary addiction medicine and clinical sciences with a profound immersion in the timeless 12-step experience. At Origins, they leverage evidence-based clinical and pharmacological therapies within the classic 12-step framework to deliver a compelling system of longer-term individualized treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free confidential clinical assessment, I want you to call this toll-free number, 888-843-8935. Again, that's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
It takes many hands to build a healthy life. Recovery from mental and substance use disorders is possible with the support of my community. Join the Voices for Recovery. Visible, vocal, valuable,
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, including prevention and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-4357. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
All right, welcome back. And by the way, I forgot to tell you this, the Monteman will be at Free by the Sea in beautiful Ocean Park, Washington on the 18th and the 19th. We're going up the late afternoon of the 18th, so we can wake up bright and early for the 10K walk run, celebrating National Recovery Month up in Ocean Park. You know where Ocean Park is, right, Bruce?
No.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Okay, he does. Do you know where it is?
No.
Okay. If you go over the Astoria Bridge, it's about 30 minutes towards the coast. It's just beautiful. Just beautiful country. And so we're going to be there. And then we are celebrating our 1 year anniversary with Free by the Sea as one of our main sponsors. So we're taking the show up there to talk to people that are doing the walk run thing and to talk to community members and staff members of Free by the Sea and kind of feature their center on one of our shows.
I don't walk and run anymore. I walk roll.
You walk roll?
Or I roll walk.
So this, excuse me, I understand. Okay, words, the power of words. This is, The Great Reality is a faith-based recovery radio show. And so, we're going to look at some faith-based statements here. These are coming out of the bigger book. There are 7 scripture verses that these have been kind of deemed. I mean, there's lots of scripture verses about our words, but these have been kind of deemed by many theologians and people of faith as the power 7, I guess you would say. So like I said at the beginning of the show, folks in recovery can be very sensitive. I mean, people in general can be very sensitive. But we magnify, people that are in recovery magnify things many times. And so words can, like I said, build us up. They can tear us down. They can light a fire in our heart. They can burn it out. And if you want proof, just watch, a father or a mother, the way they talk to their little kid in the grocery store sometime. You're going to see all different kinds of things go on. Some people are going to be very encouraging with their children. Some people are going to be very shaming with their children. Watch the face of the child if you don't think your words don't have power. It can be very encouraging. It can be very sad. And don't you know that we're all kind of like little children or little sheep? And
I don't want to be known as sensitive. I want you to be known as insensitive.
Oh, that really hurts my feelings. Words cut like a knife. Okay, so here's the first one. The power of the tongue. This is probably the most well-known scripture verse in reference to what we say. This is found in the book of James, chapter 3. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile, sea creature can be tamed, and has been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. Wow. That's kind of a heavy rebuke, isn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of brings things into focus. Do we do that? I mean, the Word of God says we do it. I believe it. But do we always recognize that we do that?
You know what jumps out at me is...
What's that?
Is the part of that second sentence. It says, setting on fire the entire course of life.
Wow.
And you were just talking about how parents talk to their kids in the grocery store or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
What kind of life are they setting forth for them?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I comment on that from experience. Not because it just seems like some kind of...
Not because you just witnessed it in the store, but because you've got experience
in fact,
in it.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I'm going to bring it up right now.
Yeah.
It's, I've read this many times in James through the years and stuff, but I was going through my music a couple of days ago, just looking, actually I was looking at dates of when I wrote these songs. And there's a song, and Bruce has heard it, and I don't know if you have, Monty, but it's called Fool's Highway. And I believe, if I remember right, it was written in 2011. And the very first verse, what I talk about, and I'm just going to quote just a little bit of it, is I start out and I say, words that were spoken from a long time ago, promises broken, still linger in my soul. Guess that I'll go now. That's part of the game. Going through life on a fool's highway. And my point of writing it that way was exactly what we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. From a little kid, and growing up, how that stuff sticks with you like glue. And you said it earlier in the program, your perception of what you hear people say is based on that kind of experience a lot of times.
Oh, you bet. Yes, it is.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm done now.
Yeah.
my little piece about it is this section you read is it says, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. And when I started to recognize that there was things I could not change, say, because if I was going to constantly say I could change things, I'm saying that I'm not powerless.
Or you say you have the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I started to understand that and see my need for him, the Lord become very, very precious. And that's been my theme for quite a while now as I look at these things and see that. And I consider it a blessing that I've been taught and understand that our need for a Savior.
Because in that statement that you just read, but no human being can, you could almost put a period there. But no human being can. It within that, it kind of camouflaging that is the hope that there's someone who can.
Oh yeah, because remember you're reading scripture and in James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it's telling us is that you can't tame the tongue.
That's right.
You can't. Yeah.
See, and I don't think that sets well. We think, well, if we just go out and we just do this or do that, and I think that we are supposed to practice it, but we're supposed to practice it out of His love, out of His justification, out of the blessings, out of His work on the cross. We've been forgiven so much, so learn to forgive.
Right.
I constantly, regardless of how much I've grown or how much I think I have, that to learn to forgive another person when I hold animosity toward a resentment, I have to go to the cross and see that it's my sins that have him hanging there. And all he's done for me, then I can turn around and start to forgive others. It just doesn't come to me naturally.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. So I think out of an abundance of the heart, we speak.
Yeah. And we're going to touch on that here in a minute. Now this also, when I think of how full of deadly poison our words can be, I think of one of the more common sayings or remarks that have been known in 12-step support meetings, is that phrase, shut up, sit down, you have nothing to say. Now, usually when I hear that, it's usually, I don't usually hear somebody say that to somebody. What I usually hear is somebody saying that somebody said it to them. I haven't experienced too many times where I've actually heard somebody actually say that to another person. You know what I mean? But I've heard people tell the story. When I came in the rooms, they told me to shut up and sit down. I had nothing to say. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if you're talking that way to people, you know, you're not doing yourself or them any favors. I mean, that's just harsh and cruel, and we have no business being like that.
Yeah, well, I think when people hear that,
Yeah.
they talk about this God thing that people talk about when people first come in. But if a newcomer comes in and they hear that,
Yeah.
and they're a little gun shy for whatever reason,
Right.
that something's happened to them in life, and then they hear this, you know, you have shut up, sit down, you have nothing to say, then we're not going to hear where that person is coming from. So the approach that we're going to make might be off base.
I heard a speaker. In fact, I think it was somebody I featured on our Circuit Speaker show say something, and I kind of cringed a little bit. And I liked where he was going, and then where he ended up, it kind of bothered me. He said, "I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you the truth. I'm going to read from the big book. I'm going to share with you what the founders wrote." And I'm like, "Yeah, good." He says, "Because if I give you my opinion, then the newcomer is going to think that they can give you their opinion and that it matters, and nothing they say matters." I thought, ouch, you just wiped out what you just said. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you something. I have sat in 12-step support meetings before, and I'm falling asleep. And then some new guy will say just a couple of words, and I'm wide awake. And my heart's been blessed. There was a guy that I know very well. He was in the meetings for years. And one day he said, with tears in his eyes, "Hi," and then he said his name. He goes, "I'm an alcoholic." And just tears streaming. That's all he said. And it was so freeing for him to recognize where he was, what he needed. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It took him years to do that. Just those few words. And as far as working a program goes, he was brand new. And I walked out of there. I was on cloud nine, man. The guy recognized his powerlessness, and I was just like, wow. So there was somebody with something to say that hadn't even cracked the book. Here's number 2, the power of life and death. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits." Death and life. So the good book says death and life are in the power of the tongue. That would suggest the tongue has power. What kind of power, though? And that's what I want. That's what I want to ask you guys. Is it
we have the power to lift up or the power to tear down?
Yeah.
Yeah. And which one do we want to use? And if we choose the bad fruit, you know, to tear down, well then, you know.
What do you think it means when it says, "And those who love it will eat its fruits"? Any ideas?
Well, I'll just make a stab.
What goes around comes around.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
So if you speak blessing, you're probably going to receive blessing spoken. If you speak negativism, you're probably going to, at the very least, that's what you're going to hear. Because isn't that true? I mean, when I'm speaking harsh and negative, and you know, then my mindset is usually going there, and that's what I'm hearing from people.
Yeah, well, I think that it'll be pretty obvious by your actions which one you love.
Yeah.
You know, what you're doing, what
Right.
you're speaking. You know, even I guess some harsh language. You know, if we're always that, I've spent a lot of time trying to temper my message because it can come off harsh because of the way that I learned to speak and loud and those types of things. And it's been a long time, you know, trying to and still it's offensive to people, you know.
Number 3, words can condemn or justify us. Matthew 12:36-27. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Bruce and I had a little chat about this before the show. He said, I don't agree with it.
Sure, leave me out.
No, that's funny, people.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I think I was thinking along the lines of Christ's work on the cross and my salvation instead of what this really was talking about.
What do you think it's talking about, Bruce?
What do you think I think? What do I?
What
think
do you think it's talking about?
Our actions. Yeah, you know, are we being a light or not? And I think that there's a lot of things that are going to be burned up like hay and stubble. You know, and I think that's along the lines that it's talking about here. You know, that work that we perform outside of Him is going to be like filthy rags.
So we're going to be accountable for every careless word we speak.
I think so.
Yeah. So it's kind of like I look at this kind of like the guy who says to his wife who called the police on him because she said, you know what, if you come into this house, you know, screaming and punching holes in the walls one more time, I'm going to call the police. And then he does. And so she calls the police. And he says to her, you put me in jail. And she says to him, no, you put you in jail. So here we go. You know, our own words condemn us. We did this to ourselves. You know, we like to blame others. Well, you made me feel this way, and that's how I reacted. Well, no, you reacted. You did that to you.
Well put, honey.
Yeah, I just thought of that. I get a bell.
Yes, you do.
And what do you think about that, Marv?
Well, I was reading on while you guys were talking, and so I didn't. I'm ashamed of myself, Bruce. I didn't really hear what you guys were saying because I was looking.
Don't look over those glasses like that and tell me you're ashamed of yourself. Somebody please tell the audience what he's wearing.
Well, you know what I was thinking about, though? The word discernment. And and I was thinking about Jesus himself. You know, how many times in reading the Gospels do you see where Christ is talking to Pharisees and Sadducees and he's saying, you hypocrites. And then while I was reading forward here a little bit, it's right there, you brood of vipers.
Yeah, I read that.
And so I was thinking about that, and I was also thinking about, I think it's in Psalms 32, it says, do not be like the horse or mule that has to be bridled and to go this way or that way. And to me, part of what we're talking about has to do with that in a way, because when you, when I used to shoot my mouth off, which I still do occasionally, I'm really bridling myself.
Yeah.
And what I say and what the outcome of that is showing me which way I have to go. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. You bet. You bet.
So discernment, and kind of like what Bruce was talking about, for for quite a while now, I've been working on just keep my mouth shut. Because I know how I can get into trouble.
Right.
You know.
Right. And you're right. Bruce has been talking a lot about being quiet and listening where he can be of most help.
Yeah.
But if we're flapping our gums, we might miss that.
So discernment, I think, is part of what we have to take into consideration.
Yeah. Good. Here's number 4. Our words reveal what's in our hearts. And Bruce touched on this. Matthew 12:33-35. Either make the tree good and its fruits good, or make the tree bad and its fruits bad, for the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, this is the part that gets me, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. Out of the abundance of the heart, my mouth speaks. So we did a whole series on this. I think we did like 3 weeks on God and the potty mouth. Remember that, Bruce?
Yeah.
And we did that with Mason. And we talked about, people are in different places in their maturity with God or in their recovery. And, people don't clean up their language necessarily overnight, and we get that. But, if you've been walking with God, if you and let me just relate it to 12-step recovery. If you've done these steps and you've applied these principles in your life, I would think that the way you speak is going to be different, or at least it's going to start sounding different, because what's in your heart.
Yeah, the good tree.
Different.
The good tree doesn't produce bad fruit.
Right.
I think that's what this is saying there. And it's not that it's not a process, in our lives.
Yeah.
But we darn sure can't live there and continue to have this constant dirty mouth, and I know people that do. What was said to me was, Bruce, your message loses. I stop listening to you when I hear that filth that comes out of your mouth.
Even though your message was good.
Even though my message was good.
And helpful and everything.
They said I had a good message, but they just turned it off. And that was enough for me to start to correct that.
Right.
See, but so if that's not happening to you, and you're not trying to do that on some level, and you're going to just live there and that sort of thing, then I think there's something wrong.
I really, and this, I used to get really frustrated when I heard people that claimed Christ as their higher power dropping the F-bomb every other word, especially people that had been in their fellowship, 12-step fellowship, for a long time. It used to just irritate the heck out of me. And I got to thinking one day, if we are indeed powerless over our tongue, unless we're depending on God, then perhaps that's their problem. They're not depending on God. They're following Christ in title only, and they're not leaning on God for it. They're trying on their own power to do it. And then I started thinking, well, then I get it. I kind of understand. If they haven't really understood their powerlessness, well, no wonder they can't change their language, because they're not leaning. They're leaning on themselves.
There's people with adultery. There's people with the tongue. There's people with other addictions.
Yeah.
That we know that it might take a while for that to be cleaned up or to be convicted of that.
Right.
I think that's just shows how God works in our lives individually as well as corporately, as a body. But I think that what Marv talks about all the time, and it's being a process, is where I'm at, is that even if it's something that we've turned over, I think that we have a real tendency, if we're not staying on the path, to get off the beam and to
kind of
do
default,
these things. Yeah. And we shouldn't be looking at them as really bad things. Mm-hmm. We should be looking at them as things what a blessing that God has put these things in place to tell us our need for Him.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
See, we want to take all these things and throw them out the window in these hard times, and where's God? I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And when it should be a blessing.
Yeah.
See,
Gotcha.
We have to work our way through it to get to where we can see the blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
See?
Yeah. And then my heart kind of changed. I felt a little more tender-hearted towards people that were doing that. You know, 'cause I was thinking, well, something's going on in their heart. And if something's going on in their heart, if their heart's broken, shouldn't I be praying for them?
There's a good point.
Instead of whining about it, shouldn't I be praying for them? Shouldn't I be encouraging them with my words? You know?
Yeah, and a lot of times I think what we're seeing is a reaction to something and not a response.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Based out of where they came from.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's true, too. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Okay, so here's number 5. Now, this is a little interesting because, especially in light of what we just talked about, distance yourself from all corrupt communication. Ephesians 4:29, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. So how much grace am I giving the guy who's going down the potty mouth road if I got my bony finger in his face saying, and you call yourself a Christian and you talk like that? You know what I mean? There's not much grace in that tone of voice. I'm being pretty harsh.
Yeah.
You know. So how could I change that? What might say to encourage that person? Bruce, what do you think?
Well,
maybe I shouldn't say anything.
Sometimes I think that's true, and that I think we have to learn to edify and to build people up instead of tear them down. I think a lot of times it has to do with our tone. In Ephesians here in 4, if I'm not wrong, isn't this where it talks about, it's the very first of 4, that now that you're born by the Spirit, learn to walk by the Spirit?
Yeah.
Well, I think that that's what it's talking about, that our conduct should be such that we should learn to do this and try to, as we, along with people, try to raise the body up or edify it, bring it together. And in Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs, it has this thing about unity,
Sure.
And I think that's what we want to do is recognize that we're no better or no worse than the person that's out there that we're seeing doing these things,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe in some cases we were worse,
Yeah.
And so learn to give the same grace that's been given to you. See, that's walking by the Spirit.
Any input there, Marster?
Well, one of the things I was thinking about, and it's a little bit off the beam, is I know for myself that sometimes when I'm trying to make a point,
Yeah.
I think I have to cuss maybe to make that point. And of course, today I try not to do that, but
Because you really don't have to do that.
well, I know I don't
Make that
have
point.
to. I know that it's not the right thing to do. But on the other hand, I still have this feeling a lot of times that I'm not getting my point across. It was important to me, whatever the topic was. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to walk away feeling like, well,
You accomplished what you wanted to.
yeah, they didn't hear me. But if I emphasize, you see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that. I don't think they're thinking, well,
I'm going to be foul or.
yeah, I
Right.
think they're just trying to
Take
make
notice.
a point to make sure people understand their point.
Yeah, take notice of what I have to say. Sometimes it's to get their attention.
It may be a personal matter, important financial matter. I mean, I don't know. But I know at times I found myself in that situation. And so
it really, a person isn't necessarily trying to be gross and disgusting or anything like that. It's just that, maybe that, I know that my dad was raised around a father my grandfather, who every other word that came out of his mouth was the F word. And he used the N word a lot. And he had all sorts of, African American friends and everything else, but I mean, when I hear my grandfather talk, it just creeped me out, it never, I don't know why it didn't touch my dad. I mean, my dad never talked like that, but I heard my grandfather talk like that. But I didn't grow up around my grandfather. That's when we would go to visit. I didn't grow up around a family that used profanity. The only profanity I was really ever exposed to on any kind of level was what I heard from my friends. But in my home, growing up in the formative years, that just wasn't there. Mm. And so when I got older, it just wasn't part of my background.
Yeah. But see, I know a girl in the program that does exactly what Marv is talking about, and I did exactly what
making
Marv
the
is
emphasis
talking about.
on the.
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I have something to say.
Right.
Is what I was using it for, but this girl felt like she had to do that because she wasn't heard or listened to if she didn't.
Oh, probably growing
so
up.
So she used it as a means to startle people and to get their attention. And I mean, she was horrible with it because it was, MF this and MF that, if I can say that, it was just rolling there. And they think that it's okay in the rooms to do this, whatever 12-step program that I've seen.
Right. Because you're allowed the grace to, be who you are, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody says anything to him about, your message would probably be a lot clearer if you was to temper that a little bit.
So though it's not healthy, though it's not proper, though it's not really wise, we can understand it, right?
You bet.
We can understand it. Something Pastor Kelly was saying the other day.
But we're not willing to do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. He was saying that there's what's real, and then there's what's ideal. And what's real may be, in this case, somebody that is using foul language to make a point. That's real to them. What's ideal is that they don't do that they use other methods that will be actually more effective. They just don't know that yet. But there's this tension. There's like this bungee cord in between real and ideal. Are we willing to experience the tension in order to reach the ideal? What God is saying. Sometimes we're not. So we just stay in what's real to us right now, and we never grow.
That's right.
Sometimes we are. And so we have to maneuver that uncomfortable growth process to reach the ideal. But here's my point. And hold your thought. Here's my point. There's total truth. God is about total truth, but he's also about total grace. And we're the ones that have a problem with the mess in the middle. God doesn't. So the total truth is, no, you don't want to be saying that. That's not helping anything. But the total grace is, I understand you are saying that, and there's going to be a place in here where the real meets the ideal and things change, but it's a process. Go ahead.
Yeah, but what I don't understand is that if you've got 15 years in the program and you're still doing this sort of thing. If we're going to be a light in the dark, that's not being a light in the dark.
Well, see, I think the person that has 15 years in the program, they don't have 15 years in the program. They have 15 years in the fellowship.
Well, sure.
But not in the program.
Yeah. But
you know what I'm saying? They haven't been applying and implementing what's in the book. If they had, things would look different.
Well, I think, doesn't some of the blame lie with us?
Us being
Christians.
Oh, absolutely. You bet it does.
That we're not willing to try to correct and edify and raise up others, for they'll stop that, and much less come under conviction ourselves and know that we can't do this and stop saying that, well, it's just progress, not perfection.
Right.
As an excuse for our
Right,
conduct.
right.
Okay,
But-
if we're not drinking, what's our excuse for what we're doing?
But don't you think that actually we are doing something about it based on our actions in front of that kind of a situation?
Sure. Yeah. I think
I know years ago I would get stopped short based, and I'm thinking of a particular friend of mine I've known for over 30 years. I would go into his area. He's kind of became my spiritual advisor as time went on. But I remember consciously thinking when I would go into his work area and we would talk, this sort of gate or door that slammed shut that kept me from being the brash, unruly idiot that I was. Based on his actions, based on his demeanor, based on his words.
Good for him.
That would stop me up short. And I'd always kind of, and I remember thinking about this. And I don't know if it was out of some sort of respect or what it was, but I just knew that I didn't want to act that way in front of him.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what I'm saying. I think sometimes these people get stopped short because it hits them. There's something different. There's some sort of honor emanating. I don't know the right words.
I know what you're saying because well, here's a case in point. You've heard in meetings before, people will say they go to share and they got kind of a potty mouth, but they'll stop before they'll share and they'll say, "Is there any kids in here?" I've heard people say that. Now, why are they saying that? Because
they know the difference.
They know the difference. They know, and I'm thinking to myself, what makes you think I want to hear it? I'm a kid, you know. But at least they have an understanding somewhat of what's really appropriate and what's inappropriate. Now, other people won't care if kids are in there or not. But the ones that do, they always seem to, they kind of check things out, and I got to respect that. But I do understand what Bruce is saying, because I think sometimes it's like that. I think Milton said it. Evil abounds when good men do nothing. Sometimes we just let things ride because we're too uncomfortable to maybe, speak up in love with somebody that maybe could benefit from it.
Why can't both things be true?
I think they can.
Yeah, because there's let's take the amen corner,
right,
of the room. I
remember that.
And and there's people that have come to that side,
right,
and they seem to have cleaned up a lot. You see what I mean?
Right.
And they're open to spiritual things. You see?
Yeah.
And maybe it was because of the message and the steadfastness and the very little vulgarity coming from that side of the room. I know I've had, said it a few times to wait, it just comes out like to get attention.
Yeah.
Or thinking that's the best way to say it in the rooms or something.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean? So I think that he has a very valid point, but I think both things could be true.
I do too.
And as followers of Christ, I think we have to learn to walk by that and to
I wonder,
just not inside the rooms.
I'm just thinking about this real quick. I wonder what it was like. The Pharisees and the Sadducees are accusing Christ of hanging out with the sinners.
Mm-hmm.
And Christ just shrugs it off and goes into the house and sits and has dinner with them. And I wonder what the conversation looked like.
It probably wasn't real pretty.
Coming from these guys.
Yeah. I'm sure they had their cultural
And not
language.
once do I, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but do I see in Scripture anywhere where Jesus says something about, hey, I don't like the way you talk?
Well, he doesn't say that directly to them, I don't think, but he definitely teaches that.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the teaching's there.
I think where he really gets, his finger in their face is things, like when Peter, said some things to him, and he told him to get behind me, Satan. And he wasn't really even talking directly to Peter. He was talking more to the attitude. But he always showed compassion. Even the Apostle Paul, who could be the harshest of the harsh, in all of his letters, if you notice what he says to the churches and what he says to the different people, he always compliments them before he ever starts correcting them. I thank God for your faithfulness in Christ. I thank God for your fellowship. I thank God for your loyalty. You're amazing people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a trip. All right,
See, that turns my clock.
It turns my clock, too. Well, okay, so if I say, Bruce, you know what, you're an amazing guy, remember, I'm getting ready to rebuke you. All right, number 6, words can be deadly. Proverbs 12:18. There is one whose rash words are like sword thrust, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. The tongue of the wise brings healing. Okay, we already know that the tongue can be like the thrust of a sword, but the tongue of the wise can bring healing. I'll tell you what, there's nothing like, doing a side hug with somebody, putting your arm around them and saying, you know what, I get it. Just saying that to somebody who is broken and hurting and just can't even scrape up enough strength to get out of the pit. And you come up alongside them, you give them a hug, maybe you shake their hand, maybe it's just a look, and you go, I get it. Or, I'm really, really glad you're here. How often do we hear that? It's healing words.
What I'm practicing now is saying that, trying to acknowledge people that I heard what they said before I spew my commentary about it, because it's coming at a slightly different angle or something.
Right.
And
I hear you say that. You know what you just said? Man, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm practicing that because I think that's, if we don't, by not acknowledging them, it's silence. If we're saying something else, and it's like we're tearing them down.
Yeah, because something you say, and I've noticed it. You've done this for some time now. Is you'll compliment, well, even with something maybe that an opinion I have, and you'll say, "Boy, that is a really excellent point." I may come at that from just a little bit different angle. See, that is really palatable. I can handle that. What you might really be saying inside is, I highly disagree, and I think you're out to lunch. But you're using different wording.
But I'm trying to raise people up for we can have some unity there, for we can hear one another. Because if we just go out there, and I'm going to make it, well, I had a real good friend in Alcoholics Anonymous and lost him, and because he thought that I was being hard on him.
Yeah.
Because I would just spill my little spill, and it would be counterproductive to what he said.
Let me ask you, Marv, have you ever had somebody say something to you that was healing? I mean, you were at a place where you were just like, I don't even know if I can take another breath.
That's another part of the dilemma for people in recovery, and and the kind of dysfunction they come from, I've had lots of people through the years who have said things that were healing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is do I believe it?
Oh. Yeah.
You see, when you come from places like a lot of us have, it takes a lot of God's grace to come to the point to start believing some of this
Because we
stuff.
may have heard those words before, but they weren't true.
And then kicked right in the butt,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Or we're still hurting. I mean,
But
the pain
yes.
is real.
Yes, I have had
Yeah. Yeah.
some really neat people in my life that have been very uplifting.
So we are out of time, so we're going to hit this last one really fast. Guard our words. Proverbs 13:3. Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. What Marv said a minute ago, sometimes I'm just learning to keep my mouth shut.
Right.
Yeah. So stand guard. Stand guard on our words. I know a guy down in Sonoma County that goes, before he walks into his 12-step meeting, he will sit in the parking lot for a good 5 minutes and pray that God gives him the proper words and attitude before he ever goes in there.
Oh, I do. I pray before I go into the rooms all the time, if not every time. And because God,
you know you, right?
God
because
made
you know
me
you.
like this, you know, and it's hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that I'll be able to hear instead of thinking about what I'm going to say. You know, it's a real pride issue, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I brought it up. I think it was the last program we did last week, but that part in that prayer to understand rather than be understood. For some reason, to me personally, that's a big deal. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I spent my life trying to shove my ideas on somebody else, but nevertheless, and that's a lot of why I just try to really keep my mouth shut, to listen and to take in as much as I can before I respond, or if I'm even asked to respond.
Which brings us to the topic for next week. We're talking about what we speak. We speak.
Knock it off.
Our words. We're gonna kind of Bruce. Where's Mike? You know, we're gonna kind of continue this a little bit, and we're going to hit on something that Marv just talked about. We're going to unpack what is known as the St. Francis Prayer next week. And this just a little bit of trivia for you. St. Francis didn't write it. And I'll give you a little history lesson on it next week. But don't be discouraged. There's a really good reason why his picture is on those cards that they hand out. A really good reason. And it goes all the way back to, believe it or not, the battleground war.
I'm going to talk about the things we don't say and do.
There you go. So we're going to kind of continue this with the St. Francis Prayer. So those of you who are listening, if you've never read it before, you've never heard it before, just type in the St. Francis Prayer on Google or on your tablet or whatever, and you'll get a million websites.
How are they going to type it in if they don't know it?
Just type in the St. Francis Prayer.
Yes,
oh, you're so weird. All right. Don't forget, this Friday, Rob Park, Executive Vice President for Origins, will be my guest. My friends, this is the Monty Man, Bruce and Cowboy Marv. And we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.